Okay, let's dive in today. We're looking at a story that, honestly, it sounds almost too incredible to be true.
Right.
It's about Do Won Chang, how he went from working 3 really humble jobs to building this massive global fashion empire, Forever 21.
It really is the epitome of that rags to riches narrative, the American dream story that you hear about.
Exactly, and we've gathered some fantastic source material, articles, bits of research, various insights.
Yeah, a really good collection that charts his whole journey. The perseverance, the faith element is strong, and just sheer hard work.
So our mission today for this deep dive is to really unpack those key moments, those surprising little observations he made.
And the core lessons, right? The things you listening can maybe take away. Because there's some real aha moments in here.
Definitely. Okay, so to really get it, we need to start at the beginning, which is, miles away from LA fashion.
Yeah, totally different world. Do Won Chang, born in South Korea, 1954.
Sources say his upbringing was, well, pretty modest, no real luxuries.
But what seems clear is that a strong work ethic was instilled early on. That seems foundational.
Then fast forward to 1981. He's 27. He and his wife, Jin Suk, they make this huge leap.
Huge. They immigrate to Los Angeles, to the USA.
And the landing, as the material describes it, was rough, really rough.
Oh, yeah. They arrived with basically no money. Very limited English.
No connections, no network, nothing.
So those early days, extremely difficult conditions.
It's hard to even picture the grind. To make ends meet, Do Won worked 3 jobs.
3 simultaneously.
Yeah. A janitor in the morning,
Okay.
then a gas station attendant during the day,
Wow.
and then in the evenings, serving coffee.
Unbelievable. The sources mention him working, like up to 18 hours a day?
18 hours, and saving every single penny they could.
And his wife, Jin Suk, she wasn't idle either, right? She was a trained hairdresser.
That's right. She was working long hours, too, in a salon.
Their combined income must have been, well, pretty small.
Incredibly modest, yeah. But their determination was just huge. That's the word that keeps coming up. Immense.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What kind of mindset, what kind of grit does that take?
Especially in a new country, with, like you said, nothing.
Just that internal drive. And what's amazing, even with that punishing schedule,
Yeah.
he was still observing things. He still had this capacity to notice details.
Okay, so this leads to the spark, right? The famous gas station observation.
Exactly. While he's working there, pumping gas, he starts noticing a pattern.
Which was?
The people driving the nicest cars, the ones who seemed wealthiest, a lot of them worked in the garment industry, in retail.
Ah, okay. So he connects the dots. Wealth equals, or often equals, this particular industry.
Right, even though he had zero background in fashion himself, none whatsoever.
That's a big leap, then. Was it like a sudden flash, do the sources say? Or more gradual?
It seems more like a moment of, sharp awareness breaking through the exhaustion. He saw an opportunity where others might just see cars.
He saw the pattern, the success.
Yeah, and decided, despite having no experience, that this was the path.
So they take their savings, that $11,000 they painstakingly saved.
Which, back then especially, was a serious amount of money to scrape together like that.
Absolutely. And in 1984, they opened their first store.
In L.A.
Called Fashion 21 initially. And they targeted the Korean-American community, which was growing there.
Okay, so niche focus at first. What made it work so well so fast? Because the success was immediate, wasn't it?
It really was.
Yeah.
First year, they pulled in $700,000 in sales.
Wow. From an $11,000 start.
Incredible return. And the sources point to a few key things. It wasn't just one factor.
Like what?
Well, first, rapid inventory turnover. Always something new on the racks.
People coming back.
Exactly. Second, trendy clothes, but at really low prices.
Yeah.
Huge appeal for younger shoppers.
Makes sense. Fast fashion, basically.
The early model, yeah. But maybe the real differentiator, the secret sauce, was Jin Suk.
His wife.
Yeah. She had this amazing natural eye for fashion. She personally picked out everything. Oh, interesting. So it wasn't just random cheap clothes, it was curated.
Very much so. Her taste was critical. That hands-on curation, that really set them apart.
So that first year, $700. That's not just luck, that's proof of concept.
Definitely. And they didn't just sit back. They realized this had broader appeal.
Right, beyond just the initial community focus.
Precisely. So, strategic move, rebrand to Forever 21.
Catchy name.
Yeah.
Emphasizes youth, The trends, the affordability.
And it worked. The growth after that was just
So
explosive.
fast retalking.
They started opening new stores every 6 months, which is already fast.
Yeah, that's aggressive growth.
But then it accelerated even more. They got to a point where they were opening a new store every month.
Every month. Wow. That's hard to even manage, I'd imagine.
It requires incredible logistics, systems, everything. But they did it.
So by the 2000s, where were they?
Truly global. Stores in over 40 countries,
Okay.
generating, at their peak, over $4 billion in revenue annually.
Oh, $4 billion.
Yeah, and employing something like 30,000 people worldwide.
And the Changs themselves. The couple who arrived with nothing.
Billionaires. Their net worth was estimated at one point around $5.9 billion.
That is just an absolutely staggering ascent, almost unbelievable.
It really is. But, that kind of hypergrowth, it often comes with risks.
Yeah.
Challenges start to creep in.
Right. It's rarely a smooth ride all the way to the top. What hurdles did Forever 21 start facing?
Well, the big one, which many people know about, came in 2019.
The bankruptcy filing.
Exactly. The sources point to a couple of main causes. One was that really rapid expansion, maybe getting too big, too fast, spreading themselves thin.
And together.
The huge shift to online shopping, the competition there just exploded, and maybe they didn't adapt quite quickly enough.
That hit a lot of brick-and-mortar retailers hard.
For sure. But what's really interesting, reading up their perspective,
Yeah.
the Changs didn't seem to view the bankruptcy as, the end, or even as a failure, necessarily.
How'd they frame it?
More as a lesson, a really valuable, if painful, learning experience.
Okay. And the company wasn't liquidated, right? It restructured.
Correct. It went through the Chapter 11 process, restructured, and it's still operating globally today, which, says something about the brand's underlying strength.
And maybe the founders' resilience, too.
Absolutely. So, reflecting on this whole massive story, what are the big takeaways, the lessons we can pull out from Do Won Chang's journey?
Well, number one, obviously, is hard work. But it's the level of it, isn't it? Those 18-hour days weren't just about earning money.
No, it was like forging the discipline needed later on, the sheer will.
Yeah, the intensity is what stands out. Second, that observation piece.
The gas station moment. It wasn't just seeing, it was connecting. Seeing a market gap while doing something totally unrelated.
Humble observation turning into strategic insight. That's powerful.
And third, something really central to their story.
Mm-hmm.
The partnership. Building this whole thing with his wife, Jin Suk.
Yeah, that collaboration seems absolutely key. Shared vision, complementary skills.
It really amplifies what's possible, doesn't it, compared to going it alone?
Definitely. And then there's the faith element. You mentioned it earlier.
Yes, it's very prominent in the accounts. They're devout Christians.
And they attributed their success in large part to prayer and just sticking with it through God's help.
There's that quote from Do Won Chang. God has blessed us, and I see this business as a way to give back.
So it's deeply integrated into their why. And finally,
the customer focus. Right from the start, with Jin Suk picking clothes to trying to follow trends.
Understanding what people wanted, especially young people, and delivering it quickly and affordably. That was crucial for the growth.
Right. So you see how these core things, hard work, observation, partnership, faith, customer understanding, they wove them all together.
And it shows how values aren't just, things you say. They drove the business, even through tough times like the bankruptcy.
Exactly. Which, again, they saw not as an end, but as a chance to learn and adapt.
What an incredible arc. We've covered a lot. From arriving with nothing, that intense work ethic.
Yeah, the sheer grind. Then that key observation at the gas station.
Sparking the idea, the first store, then the explosive growth into a global giant.
And navigating the massive success and the significant challenges, too.
It's a story packed with lessons on perseverance, spotting opportunities, and adapting.
The power of observation, like you said, the strength you get from a real partnership, sticking to your values.
So, maybe a final thought for you listening. The Changs framed their biggest challenge, bankruptcy, as a lesson, not a failure.
Right. It makes you wonder.
What opportunities might you be missing if you're not quite observing your own surroundings closely enough? Or maybe how could you reframe a challenge you're facing?
Could it be a stepping stone like it ultimately was for them? Not an endpoint, but a redirection.
Yeah. Just think about how a simple observation mixed with incredible dedication and partnership completely changed their reality.
How could that kind of approach maybe inspire how you gather your own knowledge or chase your own goals? Something to reflect on.